Guys, we have few more joinings with us. Once they're back with us, we can get this rolling. Hardly 5 minutes. So I believe we have a good audience now, and let's, without delaying it further, let's start. If you all are okay with this. कैन मोर इंटरेक्टिव सेशन गाइस, मतलब मस्त ऐसा एक मैसेज करो, ऐसा मस्त अच्छा मैसेज करो, कंटिन्यूस ऐसा इंटरेक्टिव रहेंगे ना, मस्त सेशन जाएगा। यहाँ से सेशन खत्म होने के बाद जब यहाँ से जाएंगे ना, तो ऐसा समझना चाहिए लोगों को कि भाई हाँ, इसने जीएसटी में कुछ पढ़ा हुआ है, इसको जीएसटी आता है भाई, उस लेवल का पढ़ा के छोड़ूंगा। प्रैक्टिकल लेवल पर अगर जो भी होता है ना, सब कुछ समझाऊंगा। सो आप थोड़ा सा, बस थोड़ा सा एक मस्त सेशन रखेंगे अपन, एक मस्त ऐसा इंटरेक्टिव सेशन रखेंगे, बस इमोजी इमोजी भेजते रहो, सब चलता है। ऑल वर्क्स ओके, ऑसम ऑसम। ठीक है, ठीक है, तो स्टार्ट करते हैं। पहले तो मैं अपन सेशन को कैसे स्टार्ट करना है, क्या अपना रहने वाला, अपन क्या क्या इसमें रखने वाले हैं, व्हाट ऑल थिंग्स विल बी। फर्स्टली आपको लैंग्वेज कौन सा चलेगा, आपको इंग्लिश चाहिए या हिंदी चाहिए? व्हाट्स मोर कंफर्टेबल फॉर यू? ओके, ओके इंग्लिश, ठीक है। Okay, English length. Okay, so let's kickstart this. So, what all things do you guys? How should the entire this thing session should roll out? So, what should be different phases? So, what I believe, y'all can have any additions. कि आपको कुछ और चाहिए इसमें? I can definitely add that. We have that bandwidth. कर सकते हैं अपन. ठीक है. So, apparently, I'm planning. Firstly, अपन start करेंगे अपन एक what are the returns to be filed? How do we file those returns? In which return what amount should go, from where does that amount come from, and what are our how can we compute a liability by, like netting of what should be netted of how, what transactions go where. So this is what I believe हमको ये करना चाहिए, या फिर इस तरीके से जाते हैं अपन। आपके पास कुछ और सजेशन रहेंगे, प्लीज ऐड दैट इन द कमेंट बॉक्स। आई विल बी मोर देन हैप्पी टू टेक दोस comments and take that into a session. ठीक है, सो पहले स्टार्ट करते हैं अपन। तो जीएसटी जो लॉ है, जीएसटी एक लाइबिलिटी है। सो ठीक है, इसमें अभी अपने तीन मेजर रिटर्न्स है। अपना एक जीएसटीआर 1 हो गया, जीएसटीआर 1, जीएसटीआर 3B, एंड जीएसटीआर 3B के साथ वील हैव आवर जीएसटीआर 2A और 2B, व्हाटएवर यू कॉल दैट। तो बेसिकली जीएसटीआर 1 में जाता क्या है, मैं पहले आप लोगों से सुनना चाहता हूँ। What all things do you know? If you're wrong, no worries. Add that in the comment box. चलेगा, प्लीज ऐड दैट इन द कमेंट बॉक्स। अपन समझते हैं कि अपन गलत किधर हो रहे हैं। जीएसटीआर 1 तुम्हारे हिसाब से क्या? तुम बेसिक बेसिक भी चलेगा, कुछ भी, एनीथिंग। सो लेट्स से कि मैंने एक ट्रांजैक्शन किया है। सो शुड इट बी अ सेल्स ट्रांजैक्शन, परचेज ट्रांजैक्शन? सो लेट्स से कि मैंने एक I have sales. Awesome, awesome. I have answer from Bharat over here. Bharat says it's sales. Very good, Bharat. It's sales. So if I sales, okay. If I sold something to a particular person, so should I file that? Should I file that line item in my GSTR 1, or should he file that in his GSTR 1? Definitely I. Yeah, definitely. I should file that line item in my GSTR 1. Once I file that, GSTR 1 जिसका ड्यू डेट होता है 11th को, तो वो 14th को उसके 2B में पॉपुलेट होगा। अगर मैंने नहीं भरा, if I don't pay that, if I don't show that line item in my GSTR 1, that won't get reflected in his GSTR 2B on 14th, which is auto populate. समझे? So, और अगर 2B को ऑटो पॉपुलेट नहीं हुआ, तो वो उसके 3B में फर्क पड़ेगा 20th को, क्योंकि उसको उसका क्रेडिट मिलेगा नहीं। टू अभी एज पर द न्यू रूल 2B में देखा तो ही तुम क्रेडिट लोगे, नहीं तो तुम क्रेडिट नहीं ले पाओगे। तो उस हिसाब से उसका भी 3B फर्क पड़ेगा, मेरा भी 3B फर्क पड़ेगा, क्योंकि मैंने मेरे GST1 में दिखाया नहीं। आइडियली मेरी लाइबिलिटी थी, और जब मैं नेक्स्ट मंथ या उसके करस्पॉन्डिंग मंथ्स में दिखाऊंगा, तो मुझे उसका इंटरेस्ट के साथ उसकी लाइबिलिटी पे ऑफ करनी पड़ेगी। ठीक है, इस तरह अपन अभी इसको पूरी दिस इज नॉट वन थिंग, इसको अपन पूरा एग्जांपल्स के साथ इन थरली समझने वाले। आई हैव समथिंग फॉर यू गाइस, वो एक बार मैं प्रेजेंट करता हूँ, सो आपको समझ में आएगा। Is my screen visible? Please, is my screen visible? Okay, believe it is. Okay, ठीक है। सो अब मैंने कि टेम्पररी पूरा टेम्पलेट बना है, जो एक्चुअल वर्किंग होता है। हो सकता है किसी में ये 10 नए आइटम हो जाएंगे, 200 250 या 1000 नए आइटम, बट मोटा मोटी वर्किंग यही रहनी है। more or less the working remains the same, amounts yahi hai, amounts will remain same, the month of filing, month or respective whatever the columns are, so GST आएगा, B2B B2C classification आएगा, सब कुछ I've tried to incorporate each and everything. Exports I haven't incorporated over here, but I can definitely do that also. ठीक है, so as of now are we good on this session? मतलब इतना समझा है क्या कि GST 1 है, GST 2 भी है, GST 3 भी है, ठीक है। जीएसटी 1, जीएसटी 2 भी, जीएसटी 3 भी, एंड इसके अलावा 2A और 2B, ठीक है। ये अपन जो क्वेश्चन है ना 2A और 2B, ये अपन एकदम एंड में लेंगे। आई टेक दैट एट द एक्सट्रीम एंड, and trust me, most of the individuals working in the industry don't know what's the difference between 2 and 2B. If you go to a stat auditor or if you go to an internal auditor, he'll be consuming GST and 2B 2A for his reconciliations and stuff, but the GST department that's doing the actual monthly filings, they are actually using this thing. Just yeah. So the SAT auditors, internal auditors will be using GST 2A for your annual reconciliations. And you ask the interns working over there, CA interns or whatever, ask them the difference between GST 2A and 2B. They don't know it. Most of them don't know it. Because apparently they've just been told कि GST 2A लेना है, 2A लेना है। 2B क्या होता है, 2A क्या होता है, दोनों में फर्क क्या होता है? It's really important that you understand that stuff also. So we'll take that this question at the extreme end, and trust me, बाहर जाके तुम कल किसी को भी पूछ लेना 2A और 2B में फर्क क्या, आधे लोगों को नहीं पता होता। Okay, we good on this? ठीक है। So sales register, ठीक है। So sales register, firstly, whatever sales I make, I have to report in my GST 1. And when do I need to report this? The question arises, when do I report this? When in the month. So let's say okay, for the month of Jan, I'll be reporting as on 11th of Feb. 11th of Feb is the due date for this. So as you can see over here, so customer name. So these are customers. Okay. So this is just a sample the work that I've prepared for with the name of my student club. Okay. So this is the working. So these are the customers. No, they can be B2B customers, they can be B2C customers. What's the difference between B2C and B2B? How will this column impact? Is any answers from your end? Like, क्या होगा अगर B2B है, B2C है, क्लासिफिकेशन क्यों देना इंपॉर्टेंट है? B2C no IT, awesome. B2C अगर मैं फाइल करता हूँ तो it directly gets reported, directly goes to for the government. उसके 2B में दिखना नहीं है, वो उसके 2B में 14 को रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं होगा, वो उसका क्रेडिट नहीं लेगा. एंड अगर मैं B2B फाइल कर रहा हूँ तो उसके वो 2B में दिखेगा, B2C नहीं दिखेगा उसके आगे. एंड अगर जहां पे भी आई एम मेंशनिंग B2B है, it's mandatory that I mention the GST. How will the GST portal doesn't know profanity knowledge of GST portal, just knows the GSTN. मैं तुम GSTN दो तो मैं तो I know you as a GSTN, the 15-digit code. I hope you're aware of these 15-digit code GSTN. How does it goes, like the first 2 digits, then the PAN, and the remaining digits. Yeah. So how can I also add now one more column, place of supply. Yeah. Place of supply. How do I identify place of supply? How, if I want to cross examine, how can I cross examine place? Let's say I mentioned Karnataka over here. How do you know कि Karnataka गलत है, क्या सही है? The GST comes into picture. The first 2 digits over here, 27. 27 apparently reflects Maharashtra. 33, 29 reflects Karnataka. 33 reflects Telangana. 6 reflects Haryana. So there are specific assigned uh, codes, and that have to be used. So until unless you won't use that code, your place of supply won't come into picture over here. Similarly, for purchase register, I'll be using the source of supply. From where is that supply flowing out? There are also other aspects revolving around this. Why do you need to identify place of supply, source of supply? There are certain aspects revolving around it. Because वो revenue bifurcation जाता है फिर उस हिसाब से. Okay, so good on this. So I believe firstly invoice number यहाँ पे mention करोगे ताकि उसको क्रॉस रेफरेंस के लिए समझ में. मैं हर बार डाल दूंगा invoice number, let's say 4000 4000 4000 4000 4000. How will the when the same is populated in his B2B, how will he know कि this is pertaining to which invoice number? So this is just used for reference. Then I have the invoice date. When was the invoice raised? Invoice this thing, and then month, in which month I'm filing. Apart from this, customer name, reference, B2B, we have to put on this. Credit मिलेगा नहीं मिलेगा depends on this. GSTN mention करना पड़ेगा अगर तुम B2B बोल रहे हो. If you're mentioning B2B, please add GSTN. Place of supply, you can identify from this thing. What do you call? Uh, oh, the GSTN number. The first 2 digits, as I mentioned right now. ठीक है. Now let's come to type of supply. Type of supply, domestic करना, export. Mentioning it as a domestic supply, mentioning it as an export supply. How does this vary? When I mention an export supply, there's a separate header for it in the GSTR1 portal or 3B portal. For both the portals, there's a different this thing. So let's say if I add a respective invoice with marking it as domestic, it will be showed in the normal invoices. But there is also other section in the same GST or one this thing wherein it mentions as export invoice. So that header, that respective head, will just mention out all your export invoices. So if I mention a respective invoice, let's say easier purpose, I'll also mention one. Mm, 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 mm. So let's say we give it to Walmart. Okay, it's a B2B transaction. Okay, now cost not applicable since Walmart is not registered in India. अब रहेगा तो भी अपने लिए नहीं है. सपना नहीं है, ठीक है. अब नहीं है तो उसके पास GSTN नहीं है. अब इफ आई मेंशन के GSTN नहीं है एंड आई एम मेंशनिंग B2B, तो मुझे यहाँ पे डेफिनेटली एक्सपोर्ट मेंशन करना पड़ेगा. एंड हाउ डज दिस ऑल इम्पैक्ट? if you all are aware of this law, that you can claim credit for all your imports, if you can claim a credit against all those goods, until unless provided that you have 6 times of the same thing as your exports. So there's a, what the, each and everything is linked to other thing. If I'm reporting this thing over here, na, it gets linked somewhere or the other thing. So that's why I have to also report my exports. If I don't have that criteria, I cannot claim the ITC on all the imports that I've purchased. Okay. So place of supply NA, taxable value, taxable value, rather. Definitely this won't be, अभी इसको USD में आएगा, then you convert it into your taxable value and then you add it over here. Okay, so let's take a bigger amount, 60,000 or something like that. Cool. And then I can have my GST over here. Equals to good on this. Any doubts up to here? I believe we are good. Awesome, awesome. Yeah. So this is my JCR one. I can file it. The filing is a different thing. Filing is pretty easy. Matlab 5 to 10 minutes I can teach you, and I can definitely take that at the end. 5 to 10 minutes and I can explain your entire basic filing. Basic filing कैसे होता है, क्या, how do you report it over there. So मोटा मोटी ये amounts जाने हैं. This will go in my GSTR 1, my output liability. You good on this? ठीक है, चलो. So now I also have my RCM liability. What is RCM liability? Ideal scenario में sales, जब sales में बोल रहा हूँ, when I say sales, so who's paying the taxes over here? The supplier. I was selling the goods to X-Wall. If I'm selling over here, so let's say I'm selling my services or goods, whatever it is, to Bajaj Finserv. I am paying the output liability over here. That guy is claiming the credit for the same item. On the contrary, when I go to RCM liability, it's the vice versa. So there are specific list of goods and services, if you are aware of, that have been identified that these have to be paid by the recipient. So let's say Bajaj Finserv, let's say RCM, I have, let's say there's a LinkedIn invoice. Okay? Now LinkedIn is not in India. It's an export that I have taken. It's an export. This thing. It should be ideally import. Frank. Yeah. So, given an import of service किया है, I've taken the service. Definitely, a government cannot go to that guy LinkedIn and as over here, the LinkedIn is a still renowned with this thing, and you can actually catch that person. What if that person is pretty this thing, unregistered kind of person, or a pretty localite person? A government cannot go to each and every individual over there and collect the taxes from them, right? So at such point of times now, I only pay the liability, the recipient. I'm taking the service from LinkedIn. I'm only paying that GST amount component to my, what do you call, the my government, and I'm only claiming the credit for the same thing. But it's mandatory that I show that I've taken this import, I've taken the import of this, and I've claimed the credit against that. So there's also one more provision called, so we have a checkpoint for GST reconciliations and internal audit, which says that ensure that the RCM liability is always paid out within the cash. You can check the cash ledger. Check that cash ledger. You can always check out that amount, that respective amount is always being paid out with the cash ledger, RCM liability. So this will definitely go from a cash ledger. What do you call this amount? Like the 221 amount. This has to go from a cash ledger. This is a checkpoint that we have find out. So similarly, this is how it flows. Like I can, in the same month, for Jan month only, I have to report it, and for the Jan month only, I can claim the credit target the same. And this all flows out in GSTR 3B, not in GSTR 1. RCM liability. Our GSTR 1 is simple sales. भाई तुमने बेचा क्या ये बताओ. RCM liabilities and imports, ideally it should have been in my purchase register. But since the purchase supplier is not paying off his taxes, he can't pay his taxes. I have to pay those taxes on his behalf. I'll be paying those in my 3B. So I report it over in my 3B and I pay it off in my 3B. Good on this? ठीक है. All good up till here? ठीक है. So you have understood GSTR 1 अब तक के लिए तो, and RCM liability भी समझ लिया मोटा मोटी. ठीक है. So we are as of now flowing between two dates, 11th GSTR 1 and 20th GSTR 3B. ठीक है. अब 20th को when I file my 3B में 3B is a summary. I also report my output and my input. So output क्या हुआ comes from my GSTR 1, input क्या हुआ comes from my 2B. ठीक है. So this is my purchase register in my books. मैंने इतने सारे purchases किए हैं. I've purchased all these. I've taken any service or goods, whatever it is, from these vendors. So Razorpay से might be that my student club has taken some payment processing this thing. Google India से हमने कुछ लिया रहेगा marketing services. Spurge IT है, लैपटॉप से कुछ रेंट पे ले लिया रहेगा या whatever it is. So these are the रेंट ले लिया होगा. ठीक है. So in this way we have certain these things. What do you call criteria? If this is my purchase register, as per my books, this has to be flowing through my 3B at some point of time. ठीक है. Guys, I hope the session is not going too fast. ऐसा सब समझ रहा है ना मोटा मोटी. मतलब प्रोसेस क्या है ये समझना इंपॉर्टेंट है, बाकी सब खुद समझ सकते हो. गुड आफ्टर लिया. awesome. ठीक है. ठीक है. So where are we? ठीक है. Purchase register में if these are my respective purchases, now how do I match my purchases? ठीक है. ठीक. अब these are my purchases, I have to match it out with somewhere. 2B में क्या आया? ठीक है. मैं 2B डाउनलोड कर दिया उस महीने का एंड स्टॉक है 2B में इतने ही आइटम्स है, हाउ इज इट पॉसिबल कि 2B में इतना ही दिख रहा है बट मेरे परचेज मैंने इतने परचेजेस किए. माय बुक शो आई हैव रिस्पेक्टिव इनवॉइसेस फॉर दीस आइटम्स एंड मैंने इतने परचेजेस किए बट द सेम आर नॉट गेटिंग रिफ्लेक्टेड ऑन माय दिस थिंग. व्हाट वी कॉल 2B में दिख ही नहीं रहे. These items do not show. So I can see Razorpay 75058. I can add a VLOOKUP over here for your better reference. Yeah. Now I can see that Google India ka invoice is not reflecting in my this thing. What we call, uh, I have purchased it. I have an invoice for this. This is included in my purchase register. But however, the same does not file. The same is not reflected in my 2B. Reason क्या भैया? उसने GST1 में फाइल नहीं किया, अपने उसने फाइल नहीं किया, इसलिए हु सफरिंग, आई एम सफरिंग, आई कांट क्लेम द क्रेडिट फॉर दिस in this month. And if he files in next month, what will the authorities do? GST authorities, they will claim an interest from him for late filing. Similarly, I can see spurge है, ठीक है, spurge का claim a credit. Appario, ठीक है, Appario I can see के I can find it in my 2B, I can claim a credit for that. For Xenios, I can. Again, I can see a strategies law partners, they haven't filed their this line item in their GSTR1, and the same is not reflected in my 2B. ठीक है, so I cannot claim the credit at least for this month. This month के लिए filing के लिए I cannot claim the credit. Same comes for all these three items. I cannot claim a credit. Whereas for this I can claim a credit. Okay, I'll claim a credit. So can I just exclude credit not being credit that cannot be claimed from here? Okay, I have a credit not be claimed. ठीक है, so I have these line items over here. इनका सब टोटल आता है इतना. So इतना क्रेडिट मैं ये मंथ में क्लेम कर सकता हूँ. GST इतना credit I can claim. Whatever my output liability is, whatever my output liability. So my sales register was saying that you have to pay this liability. I can definitely knock off this liability from there, and also I'll have to pay this RCM liability and create a claim a credit against the same. ठीक है, इतना समझा कि this is reflecting in my 2B, इसलिए मैंने इसका क्रेडिट लिया है. नहीं दिखता तो मैं नहीं ले पाता. If it's reflecting in my 2B, I can claim a credit. नहीं दिखा है इसलिए I cannot. And what if नहीं दिखा है, आगे के मंथ में चेक करना दिख रहा है क्या. So there's one more thing what we prepare, that's called okay, not in 2B, carried forward. Not in 2B, carried forward. ठीक है, when I say कि ये इतने आइटम्स दिख ही नहीं रहे थे, it cannot be claimed since the same were not reflecting. Yeah, I cannot claim the credit for these items. Definitely आगे claim करना पड़ेगा ना. I cannot leave it. I cannot take this thing as my burden. I'll have to get this sorted. 23,900. Why should I bear that loss? ठीक है, I'll get that. Let's say next month में this guy Google India files this line item as a GSTR1, and it's reflecting in my 14. What do you call on 14th in my GSTR2B. I'll claim the credit. Why will I leave that? समझा? So ये ऐसा flow हो जाने वाला है. So the same way there can be certain items अगर 2B में. ठीक है, ठीक है. Cool. Oh, what's happened over here? One of the item is being shown out in my 2B, but the same does not reflect in my purchase register. How come is this possible? 2B में that guy has shown in my that guy has shown in his GSTR1 कि ये item इतना इतना सेल किया है, but the same is not reflected in my this thing purchase register में है ही नहीं. Sure. Apparently the thing can be your client might, so let's say in this scenario हो सकता है कि your client doesn't feel कि this should go into the books of accounts. Ideally उसने इसलिए miss out कर दिया होगा. अदानी बिल्डर से उसने क्या ऑयल परचेज किया होगा थोड़ा सा, so he felt that उसको नहीं जाना चाहिए था books of accounts में, it was might be a small amount, but apparently they have classified this as a B2B invoice and it's reflecting in your 2B. ठीक है, ideally there can also be one scenario over here. What's the general scenario? You haven't received the invoice for the same yet. He has generated the invoice, he has filed it in his return, GSTR1 return, but apparently you have not received the invoice yet. You're taking the service or goods, whatever it is, but you have not received the invoice, so you have not accounted for the same in your books of accounts, so it doesn't reflect in your purchase register over here. Should I claim credit for this item? What's your viewpoint on this? And should I claim credit point? And what are the consequences if I claim? And what if I don't? What do you guys feel? Any answers? Why shouldn't we claim the credit, or why should we claim the credit for this respective line item? And what will be the consequences if we claim or if we don't claim? Any answers यार? थोड़ा इंटरेक्टिव करते हैं, मजा आएगा. सीख तो रहे, कुछ सीखने के साथ साथ थोड़ा इंटरेक्टिव भी करते हैं, कनेक्ट भी करते हैं किसी से. Okay, ठीक है, चलो let me answer this. ठीक है, this line item apparently will have credit claim कर सकते हो. If you have this line item, you can claim the credit. No one can stop me from claiming the credit over here. But why shouldn't I be claiming the credit for this? Have I received the invoice yet? No, I haven't. What if this is a misfiling? I haven't yet. I haven't purchased anything from Adani Wilmar. This guy has shown it and showed this in his GSTR1. Apparently, during his annual audit, he has to reverse it now because गलती से मेरे GSTN पे आ गया था. गलती से उसने मेरे GSTN पे डाल दिया था अदानी विल्मा ने उसके फाइलिंग के टाइम पे, and that's why it's reflected in my 2B. But apparently it's not a purchase for me and I have claimed the credit. So there's one more law, that is that if you have claimed a credit for some item, for anything, let's say, and that credit does not belong to you and it doesn't get reversed within 180 days, you'll have to pay a liability of 18% per annum, interest liability of 18% per annum. So it's always recommended, until unless it's not been reflecting in your purchase register, please don't claim the credit for that line item. Not in PR, carry it forward. Awesome. Good after here. Is it possible that invoice is not reflecting in PR because seller has reported it late? Definitely possible. Like the purchase was done in previous month and the buyer has not reported it in GSTR1. So he's reporting it in this month's GSTR1, hence reflecting in GSTR2B, not your PR. So apparently what happens is, let's say, okay, you mentioned that, are you trying to say कि भार्गवी ये दिसंबर के महीने में सेल किया होगा या फिर ऐसा कुछ, and that's why it's reflecting in your this month's what do you call, sorry, not this month's, but that's why it's not reflecting in this month's PR? Are you trying to refer to that? Yes. Okay, so definitely होता क्या है, ठीक है, इसको ओवरकम करने के लिए the practice that general industry follows is they have a PR on console basis. So let's say कि अगर मैंने लास्ट टाइम ये देखा था ना, नॉट इन PR, ठीक है, अगर ये बार नहीं आया ना, मेरा जो PR चलता है ना, ये PR ये कौन बेसिस पे चलता है. अब यहाँ पे मैंने सिर्फ एक महीने का रेफर किया है, डेफिनेटली मैं कौन सा बेसिस पे पीआर लेके जाऊंगा? अगर मुझे पता है कि ये इसका क्रेडिट अब तक क्लेम नहीं हुआ है, नॉट इन टू बी में है, ये सब परचेस रजिस्टर में कुछ भी अगर मैं कौन सा बेसिस पे लेके जाता हूँ, आई डोंट गिव इट फॉर रिस्पेक्टिव मंथ. सो व्हेनेवर मेरा पीआर मेरे मेरे इसमें दिखता है, अगर मेरे दिसंबर में, सो ये ट्राइंग टू से ये दिसंबर के महीने के पीआर में आएगा, सो दिसंबर का पीआर भी मेरा इधर आएगा. सो आई डोंट मिस आउट ऑन दैट लाइन आइटम. आई नो कि मैंने इसका क्रेडिट क्लेम नहीं किया, आई विल कैरी फॉरवर्ड दैट. गुड ऑन दिस. So let's say कि अभी यहाँ पे in this scenario Adani Wilmar has not filed it in for the month of Jan period के लिए उसने वो फाइल नहीं किया, यानी कि फेब में फाइल नहीं किया, बट लेट्स से उसने मार्च में फाइल किया. सो व्हाट हैपेंस इज आई विल टेक दिस, आई आल्सो हैव अ शीट कॉल्ड नॉट इन पीआर कैरी फॉरवर्ड ऐसा, एंड देन आई टेक दैट फर्दर, एंड जब जब भी दिखेगा रिस्पेक्ट आगे मंथ्स में, आई विल टेक दैट. जब तक मेरा जीएसटी चल रहा है तब तक मैं उसको कैरी फॉरवर्ड करते जाऊंगा, जब भी दिखा भाई मैं कर लूंगा. और व्हाट अदर ऑडिटर्स आल्सो फॉलो इज एनुअल ऑडिट के टाइम पे इसको राइट ऑफ कर देते हैं. इफ यू नो के अब तो नहीं करने वाला है वो, तो यू राइट इट ऑफ, डायरेक्टली एक्सपेंस दैट आउट. That's what is followed in start audit. ठीक है, awesome. Also if you have any other doubts ना guys, please drop them over here. मतलब it becomes more of an interactive, and you can, you know, because of your doubt you might solve some others doubts also. दो तीन और लोगों के डाउट सॉल्व हो सकते हैं, या even they might start thinking on that and on that perspective. ठीक है, so we good at this. टू बी मैच कर लिया, सेल्स दिखा दिया, परचेज हो गया, आरसीएम हो गया. अब बताओ भैया लाइबिलिटी कितना आने वाला है. ठीक है, सब रिटर्न समझ गए मोटा मोटी. टू बी क्या है, जीएसटी 1 क्या है, 3 बी क्या है, सब में क्या क्या रिपोर्ट हो रहा है, अमाउंट क्या जा रहा है, नॉक ऑफ कैसे होने वाला है. अब आते हैं अपन नॉक ऑफ कैसे होता है, इस पे लाइबिलिटी कैसे कंप्यूट करने वाला है. ठीक है, सो देयर विल बी टू टाइप ऑफ एक्सपोर्ट सेल्स एंड डोमेस्टिक सेल्स. ठीक है, इसको मैं एक्सपोर्ट कर देता हूँ, इसको डोमेस्टिक कर देता हूँ. ठीक है, ये सेल्स रजिस्टर में आ गया. ठीक है, इक्वल्स टू सम सेल्स. Just give me a minute, right? Yeah. So what have I done over here? What I tried to identify is, okay, So what I tried to identify is कि export में कितना sales हुआ है, domestic में कितना sales हुआ है, and so ideally क्या होता है, अब जब GST 3B फाइल करते हो ना, so your GST 3B का output filing directly flows out from your GST 1. It's a summary ना basically, वहीं से आना. Still by chances ऐसा होता है कि बहुत सारे cost plus workings जो होते हैं, if you are aware of कि clients actually, the Indian clients actually bill out to their parent entity, the US entity, UK entity or whatever it is. So वहाँ पे they have a cost, जितना भी यहाँ का मेरा cost है उसके ऊपर एक markup लगाऊंगा and or directly I'll bill to that my parent entity. तो उसमें ऐसा होता है कि ideally the cost is not finalized till या फिर उसमें ऐसा होता है कि cost is not finalized till 11th and GSTR 1 में इसलिए अलग amount report हो जाता है and 3B में अलग amount report हो जाता है. So ideally ऐसे scenarios general life में भी prevail करते हैं. So what happens is you have an opportunity to alter the amounts or to add additional amounts, whatever the scenario is, ताकि आप उसको पे ऑफ कर दो एंड नेक्स्ट मंथ के जीएसटी 1 में दिखा देना. सो लेट्स से मेरे यहाँ पे सेल्स रजिस्टर में भले ही यहाँ पे दिख रहा है कि there are only these respective items, what do you call, uh, just a minute. Yeah, so over here I can just see that there are what do you call it, 12 items. Definitely possible that after 12th I identify that there were specific there were specific sales invoices which are not reported. So what I can do is I can show that in my GST 3B summary over here. I can add those amounts manually and I can in the GST button I can drop them off over there. Okay, please pay off the respective these invoices should also need to be paid out. Okay. Now the question is, what is this RCM at the rate 18% over here? Because I remember I mentioned you out के RCM तो purchases में जाता है. RCM is not shown in your this thing sales. Definitely a question ना. RCM कहाँ पे है आपसे? Definitely a question क्या? Sure, Madhu, I'll take that into consideration. Okay. So the point of concern is, how did RCM at the rate 18% come in this bracket over there, this first bracket of sales? Because ideally I did mention out to you guys that this has been reported in your this thing, what do you call, 3B. Directly in your 3B you can mention out that these are the RCM invoices wherein I need to when I was the recipient but I have to pay the taxes and I'll be only be claiming the credit for those line items. Ideally तो यही होना चाहिए था. तो ठीक है, to just remove your doubt over here, to just exclude your doubt over here, there's also RCM is not just के सिर्फ export इस पे ही लग सकता है. So here ना only imports इस पे ही लग सकता है. So import of service, I've taken a service from LinkedIn. Not just that scenario. Even if I take a service from a lawyer, a local lawyer, uh, apparently it's not possible for him to file his GSTR one now. Or he maybe that he's not registered only. Then that entire thing does not, that entire transaction does not flow into the GST system. So should I exclude that? Definitely not. So what happens is there's a facility being rolled out to us that we can actually mention out. So let's say the lawyers are registered under the GST portal. They have a GSTN number, but apparently since I've taken a service from them and it's an RCM service, I have to pay off the this thing, RCM liability. So that RCM liability will be shown in over here. But the lawyers can show this, that okay, we have made a sales or to this person and he'll be paying you the taxes. Good on this? समझा? मिस नहीं होना चाहिए कहीं से भी. This respective item should not be missed out from the GST portal, GST this thing, the system only. So hence this facility has been provided. So apparently we do not have this as of now in our working. So so we can actually cancel this out over here, or just mention a nil amount over here. Yeah, good on this. So moving on to this part, the expenses part, we can actually get this. So let's say purchases. Now, what purchases do I mention over here? Do I just mention the one just because I can claim the credit, or do I mention my entire purchases? Think. I want you guys to think. Please think. Until and unless you won't think, na guys, you won't get that, you know, this respective, whenever this respective line item or a kind of line item flows in front of you, you have to, get a spark only. Okay, this line item has to go over there. And that comes up from your thinking ability. The more you think, the more you analyze, the more you can, build that thinking ability, the more you can grasp things better. Think, guys. Sure. Okay. Over here, since this is your 3B and not your 2B, you'll have to actually report only those items just against you are actually trying to claim your credit. If I'm claiming a credit for that line item, then and there itself it flows into my GST 3B ka fourth tab. The input tab is my fourth tab, if you're aware of this. So there it mentions of your net ITC available. That net ITC available is nothing but this total net ITC available. And it has specific other this thing also. What do you call net ITC available has specific points. So one of the point is purchases, one is RCM, and there are other 2 points also. I'll add those. I'll take a sum F from here. Where's my purchases? There's my purchases stuff. From this, so what have I done? What have I done is wherever that line item was matching with my 2B, I have my 2B over here, and wherever I had my purchase register. So actually try to identify wherein it's matching out, and wherever it's matching out, I can take a credit for the same in my 3B. So I've mentioned how much credit will be applicable to me: 6840 of GST and 9,909 for my CGST and SGST. Good on this? Yeah. So let's just cross check this scenario. Okay, 6840 this amount in claiming. Okay. And now it mentions कि RCM में how much are you claiming. So what I told you, RCM's liability, if I'm paying it in that respective month, I can also claim the credit for the same line item in the same respective month. So no worry that I'll have to pay off this line item, RCM liability in this thing. What do you call? In my computation, in my out as from my cash ledger payable through cash now. This will be my RCM liability. Yeah, but also that this has to be you claimed in that respective month only. Okay, I have a question for you guys. Okay, let's say my RCM's liability, or let's say the credit amount that I have to claim is more than my sales liability. So let's say my sales liability is 5,000. No, total GST. When the credit that I can claim is, let's say, whatever the credit over here it is. So it's 26,658. So what in this scenario? How does this flow? Apparently, what should have been the case that my this thing what this the output liability. If output liability is more, I can knock off my credit from there. What if my I don't, or let's say I don't even have an output liability, so that 5,000 it's not there. Now how do I claim the credit? How do I claim this 26,658? Where does this flow from? No answers. Have you ever seen an electronic credit ledger? I believe I have one. Let me just show that to you. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, I have one. See, yeah. Now this is an electronic credit ledger for one of the entity. Okay. What can you understand? How do you read an electronic credit ledger? Okay. Okay. So you can see this thing called what you call credit over here. Apparently, there are two things that can be over here. One can be credit and one can be debit. Okay. What does this credit imply? And from where does this line item come from? Okay. So if I'm claiming a credit over here for let's say this 26,658, and let's say whatever was my RCM liability. What was my RCM liability? It was 220, right? So let me just manually add that over here. 220.8, 220.8. And when this thing was purchase for that was 1226. Yeah. So my net this thing comes to 20. Yeah. Okay. Good on this. Now, what happens is You can see these three line items over here: 7060 IGST, CGST of 9,909 and SGST of 9,909. How does these flow? How do these line items flow? These line items will be added in my electronic credit ledger over here, mentioning as, let's say it's 23rd Jan. So yeah, 23rd. I'll just delete off these numbers. I don't even know. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So my December is closed. Now the thing is, I'm worried for my Jan thing. So yeah, so it's 23rd Jan. Yeah. Now how do I identify this? So this line item, whatever credit I claim over here, whatever the credit I claim comes over here as in the form of credit. So your ITC credit ledger is credited with this line item and your balance increases. ITC credit ledger has a credit balance. Whenever you credit it, it will increase. So my ITC credit balance increases, and apparently, whenever there's a debit over here. So let's say uh, now this line item gets credited over there, but I have a this thing over here. So apparently this line item will be shown there and there itself in the same manner. इतना ही दिखेगा. And there also be a debit line item for the same. Apparently this company which is already over there, they didn't have any output sales as we mentioned. So they couldn't utilize their credit in any form. So there's knockoff of कुछ होता नहीं उधर. So over here, when I have this thing, I understand that my CGST, SGST, yeah. So this CGST, I've mentioned my IGST, CGST, and SGST, all three over here. Okay. Now my balance was already this amount. What do you call? Um, I had integrated CGST, SGST, and SGST. Let's say these amounts. Okay. Now my balance will get increased over here. With my IGST balance gets increased. Credit है already बढ़ेगा. 42,000 था पहले, अब 49,000 7,000 से बढ़ गया. Similarly, these amounts also get increased. Now, when I have a debit over here, I'll have to decrease it. So it goes like this minus this. Got it? Understood how you read a credit ledger, electronic credit ledger. When I have a credit over here, that means that I have a purchases, and against that, I've claimed a credit for that. And whenever I utilize my credit, this thing, I utilize it in form of a debit line item. Good on this? I believe this was not planned in a session, but yeah, just recalling. And I just wanted to ask, what is the effect of e-invoice in filings of GST? Okay, so Muthu, what e-invoice is basically 50,000. If you have a limit of that for the transaction is 50,000, you have to get it that's why that's EVB. So e-invoicing is basically this thing. When your turnover increases, so when your turnover increases to a threshold limit, that's I believe 50 lakhs and 1 crores to the best of my knowledge. I may be wrong at that numbers. Okay? But if those are the numbers, you have to get those e-invoiced. So impact of e-invoicing in filings of GST. How does that flow? Once you have an e-invoice over there, definitely, you know what's government. Let me tell you something. What's government planning? How's e-invoicing and blockchain, using of all those things now will actually eradicate this line item entry. So when I go and manually, enter my this thing line item, e-invoicing is trying to eradicate that thing, that manual effort of me publishing over there that this is my sales invoice. Within in an e-invoice, what will happen is directly my if my sales let's say I'm raising an invoice, that the invoicing portal will definitely club that invoice directly to my GSTR1. I don't have to go and file my GSTR1. So that effort, I raise an invoice, then I upload that respective invoice to my GSTR1. The government found out that this is a duplication of the entry. And the same thing now they're trying to do it in better different way. Let me explain you all even that thing. So what they are trying to do is, if you all have read this article from 𝗦𝗃𝗃 about blockchain technology, so what they are trying is, if a respective sales transaction is there, what if what so there's a flaw in this e-invoicing thing also. What if I have raised an e-invoice to someone, I show that this is my sales transaction. What if that guy doesn't accept that it was a purchase transaction for him? Definitely my sales is going to be a purchase for him. Good on this. That line item, what if he denies that? So using the blockchain technology, what the government is trying to do is, until and unless he does not accept that transaction, you won't get the payment. That payment won't be flowed out. There's no other method to flow. So they're planning, definitely this will take some time, but yeah, they are planning on this. And the man so to answer your question short, they're eradicating the manual efforts within with the help of e-invoicing. Good on that. Similarly, they had also come up with this e-way bill thing for this thing, e-way bill, IRN, and all that stuff for for GST, like easier for transparency, more transparency into the system and all that stuff. But yeah, you all know how it happens in India. There's you have a process in place, and these guys are ready with the loopholes. So that's the thing. Okay, so we got on the electronic credit ledger part, I believe. Yeah, yeah. Now, just a minute. Okay, good on this. Okay. See. Hmm. So we are done with purchases. We are done with the sales, and now let's move off to finding my gross liability. ठीक है? ठीक है. So my gross liability for the month will be definitely my this thing. Yeah. Okay. Now my current month's credit will be these items. These are my purchases for this respective month. I can claim a credit for those. Now I also have a this thing over here, previous month credit. So I had my the credit ledger over here. Credit ledger, I could see that already I have a balance. Okay? So I could see that previous to knock off my liability. Or let's say we do not use this thing. What do you call previous month's credit? Definitely we can do that. Let me show you in both ways. Chal. Okay? For the time being, let's assume that we do not have any previous month's credit. So my total available credit remains the same. What will be my if my total available is this thing, my paid through credit will also be the same thing. Good. Good on this. Okay. Now, what will be my payable to cash? I mentioned you earlier. RCM has to flow out from your cash. But now, what will be my balance credit? Do I have any balance credit? No, because my gross liability over here is more. If I didn't have an output liability over here, I will have a balance credit over here. But in this scenario, I don't. So cash credit, no. Late fee, no. My net liability will be my gross liability minus means this thing. Okay. And this the paid gets paid through cash. So my gross liability comes negative over here. So what now, since this is negative over here, ideally I cannot यहाँ पे there should be a formula that my paid through credit will be this will be max of this, since both of these numbers. So my this line item, my row number 25 and my row number 22 over here. So since this is more, row number 25 is more than my row number 22, the max thing that I can claim a credit is this thing. GST credit I'll claim 6,700, and my net liability comes out to over here, comes out to nil over here, because it's definitely negative. So over here it comes to nil. Over here it will come to my gross liability minus my paid to credit. Similarly, the same thing over here. Hmm? Now one more thing. Yeah, like why didn't I apply this formula over here? I can apply it. Okay, I've applied it. Oh, sorry. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I've applied it over here. Hmm? 0. Ideally, it should be 0. No, it should not be. It should have been 360 negative. Your this thing, what do you call IGST credit should be utilized of first as per your GST rules. So the numbers taken here do not actually fit into that scenario. So what should have happened? Firstly, I should have my gross liability for IGST is 6,700. I should have reduced that using my IGST credit. Then using my IGST credit, I should have knocked off my this thing liability, CGS and SG, whatever in the balance of 180, and then I should have claimed it over here. So what I can basically do is my net liability will come to this. All three. Put on this 48,900. अब ये कैसे हुआ? So 48,924. How did that come? My 360 will be knocked off over here in the ratio of 180, and then my liability comes up to uh the net thing. Uh, no, not exactly the 24,642, but minus 180. 24,642 minus 180. My CGST this thing. So in that way, this is just a combined thing. So my net liability that I'll have to pay using these numbers will be 48,924. I'll have to create a challan against this, and I have to pay this off. Good on this. Good on this, guys. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So believe we are good on all these concepts of it, like whatever, how does the process flow and all that thing. If you have any other questions, please drop them off in the message box. I'll definitely consider them and answer those. Apart from this, as I mentioned you, that I'll definitely answer your one of the major question, that's 2B and 2A. Why do start auditors, internal auditors consider 2A for GST reconciliations, and why do the general GST filings focus more on the 2B part and not the 2A part? Is something wrong? No, 2A is also right, 2B is also right. Both have their own sets of questions that they answer. Let's say let's say for a respective, what do you call? Just let me just. Okay, cool. Take it. So let's say that there's specific purchases that I uh, so let's say okay, let's say there's a respective sales line item that I that was for the meant for the month of Jan, but I've reported it for the month of March. Cool. When will this respective line item reflect in his or her books of his or her 2B? If it's reported, if it's filed by me in the month of March, though it was pertaining to the month of Jan, it will be reported. I'll mark the month as Jan over there, but it will be reported in the month of April to that person. 14th April ko that it would be reflecting in his books of accounts, in his 2B, right? So the difference between 2B and 2A is that 2B is static. 2B is fixed for a month. If 14th ko there's an auto-generated 2B that cannot be changed out, that won't be changing out. But similarly, when I mention my 2A, it keeps on changing. My 2A is comprised annual thing. Basically, it will have also, if that same line item will reflect in the month of Jan in my 2A, but will be reflecting in 2B in the month of March. I hope you try to understand how this plays a different role for the audit part, reconciliation part, annual reconciliation. Because in that manner only these numbers get reflected in your financials. Your GST ka output liability, your provision for BOGA, balance with government authorities. How do these come into picture over here? So entire thing flows from this 2A part, the difference between 2A and 2B part. That's why we use 2A for audits, and for monthly filings we use 2B, wherein जितना 2B में दिखा उतना ही credit claim करने का. Good on this? Any other questions that you guys have? Yes, Prerna, Varun, Matu, Padam, Rajat, Akriti. Any other questions that you guys have? Okay. So बेसिक प्रोसेस तो समझना जीएसटी में कैसे है. हाउ डू यू व्हाट सी 1 में क्या जाता है, 3B में क्या जाता है, 2B में क्या जाता है, 2A क्या होता है, ये समझा. दैट्स मोर देन इनफ. दैट्स मोर देन इनफ. If you do, like, if you have any other questions, just drop them off. You can reach out to us, and we can definitely take this. We can answer you back. We have a mail ID. Padam or someone will Padam will definitely drop that into the mail, the chat box. So you all can, any questions that you have with your internship, during your internship, referring to your client. So let's say it's client say I have one of a clients, like my company has a client. So what happens is, this person has a SaaS platform over there. So this guy is completely unaware of GST or TDS. There's any statutory liability, anything prevailing like that. So what this guy does is, he has two, the platform by they have two. So one is the person who needs that information comes up to there, and the one who's supplying that information is already listed on that platform. So there are specific set of individuals, those are listed on that platform. And as per TDS laws, now this guy has to what this guy does is he's actually collecting a revenue from the person who needs that information, comes over there, and the person who's supplying that information. So definitely he has to pay a TDS liability, because the person supplying that information is listed over there, and 194J comes into picture over here. So this guy is completely unaware, and he's not deducting of TDS on payments to those vendors. Okay. Now also, the revenue that he's collecting from those who needs that information coming on that platform, he's not unaware of any GST thing. He has to charge a GST on that invoice. whatever he's levying, let's say कि 10,000 का invoice levy कर रहा है उसको पे, तो he has to also levy a GST component on that. So apparently he was not doing that. So 18% GST, 10% TDS, both of the amounts he's paying off from his own pocket for 3 to 4 months, I believe. It was the third month of incorporation that we noticed that this thing, that he informed that he is not actually leaving any such, fees to those. And we were like, how did this thing even miss out from us? So apparently, like, how can you say that now he is charging TDS? So his net, his net profit is 25%. So net, this thing, gross profit from that, this thing. And now he's bearing a 28% cost from his own fees, own pocket. So how important this thing is, this entire scenario is, that how important these liabilities, statutory liabilities are. Gratuity bolo, PF bolo, ESIC bolo, people are not aware of these. But at times these can harm you pretty badly if you're not in touch with these. You have to be on top of this if you are a, like, entrepreneur or a business owners, any of those. Let's or like, so if you are doing any of that matter, so you should be aware of these. And like 25% आपका gross profit और 28% तुम अपने जेब से सिर्फ statutory liabilities भर रहे हो, सिर्फ दो statutory liabilities. What about the other expenses? That's why the knowledge is important. You're thinking, you're, if not, that guy's aged of, like around 40 years or something, and I'm shocked that even he hasn't even heard the word of GST. Don't Haven't you consulted someone that, should that liability be applicable to me? Should I be paying off that liability or no? It happens. Apart from this, if you have any questions, or should we just wrap up this? I believe you don't have anything. If you have anything, just drop a message, DM me on Teams, or DM me on LinkedIn, or our platform, or wherever it's convenient for you guys. And we'll definitely answer you pretty soon. Also, if you have any suggestions for us, please drop them off. Thanks for attending the session, guys.